my friends, and welcome. This is Brian, the Speaker for the Dead, coming to you today, as you can see, in the truck. Now, I wanted to make this video because there's been a subject on my mind for a couple of weeks now. And it was brought to my attention and really kind of disturbingly brought to light by a YouTuber that I follow, that I find to be a great YouTuber and someone who I think of as somebody to kind of emulate their channel and for their polish, their intellectual prowess, their ability to speak and really kind of get their thoughts put out there in a cohesive way. Mainly because my channel is none of those things. I really just pretty much think on the fly. But I spend a lot of time thinking about things and going over things in my mind and questioning my beliefs and such, because I have that kind of time, because I'm just driving for hours and hours on end. So the YouTuber in question is just some guy. Now, who? Well, just some guy. That's the name of his channel. And I have been subscribed to him since the first time I ever saw one of his videos. Now, I don't know how long he's been doing YouTube, but after his first video, I went and found another video, and then went and found another video, and then subscribed, and have watched every video that he has put out since. I would say I almost never miss one unless I'm not aware that I missed one. And I'm usually not that far away from technology except for when I'm camping, so I very rarely would ever have missed one. That's how good I think he is, and how much I love his videos. I find him very engaging. Now, I will say I don't always agree with him, and that we have differing views on many things. I am a Christian. He seems to have a bit of a problem with Christians. Now, this is the third time I've attempted to record this video because I've really struggled with how to explain what I'm feeling and what I'm thinking based on what he's been doing lately. Because I've been seeing a pattern emerging from him that is very inconsistent with my view of him as a person. Now, I don't know him personally. I've never talked to him in real life. I'd love to actually sit down and have a conversation with him. I think he'd be a fascinating person to get to know. And I'm sure that he'll never see this video or never know who I am. He's got 200,000 subscribers, and I'm a nobody. But I do look up to him and other people who seem to do this really well. And I hold quite a few YouTubers in that kind of esteem, but I'm going to focus in on him specifically. So I don't mention you in this. Don't think that I don't pay attention to your stuff either, because chances are I probably do. But he's been doing videos lately, and particularly since the issue with the Florida Don't Say Gay bill became an issue, which in and of itself is a lie being perpetrated by the media and the opponents of that bill. That is not the name of the bill. Nowhere in that bill does it say that people cannot say the word gay. That is a lie that has been put out there to make people dislike this bill in the hopes that they will never read it. Now, what this bill actually says, it's a Florida bill, and it's gone through their state legislature and has passed, and the governor has signed it into law. It basically states that you cannot teach sex education or sexual information or gender information at all to children in the 3rd grade or younger. Now, the crazy thing to me is that this bill had to be created in the first place. The fact that it was created tells me that Florida became aware of a problem in its schools with teachers teaching extremely inappropriate material to very underage children who will not understand the depth or the complexity of the issues that they're being taught about. Most children, I don't remember ever truly being aware of sexuality or anything like that till I was at least 8 years old, and maybe even longer before I really truly understood the concept. I mean, it's not like I never was in a bathtub with a girl and saw that I have a pee-pee and she doesn't. You know, I mean, kids notice stuff like that, but they don't really understand what it means, other than, well, she's a girl and I'm a boy, or vice versa. Because oddly enough, that's how you tell what gender you are, because there's only two. Now, I know, crazy as it might seem in this day and age, but I have to say at this point that that's just my opinion, and the opinion of every science textbook since we understood the concept of biology and science. I mean, so, you know, I feel pretty okay with saying that gender is a set scientific fact that's based on genetics and realistic things, you know, time tested. But I digress. Now, ever since this bill came out, was approved, this seems to have really rattled just some guy. He's been tweeting a bunch about this. He has been retweeting Democrat hack talking heads who parade themselves around as news when they're not, and using hyperbole and falsehoods to prove their news points. And he's been doing this a lot, and then making videos that are really quite anti-Christian videos that have been troubling to me. Because, you know what? I'm a Christian. I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. If you don't know what that is, the other name that people call us is Mormons. Whatever you want to say, it's fine. That's not, the Mormons are not what we are called, but whatever. And I am a Christian, and I follow a lot of people who are not Christians. I have friends who are not Christians. I know a lot of people who are not Christians. And you know what? I have never wanted to kill any of them. Okay, take that back. I might have wanted to whack a few of them in the head occasionally, but it really had nothing to do with them not being a Christian. Because I don't base my relationships or friendships or anything on who goes to what church, or who somebody thinks God is or isn't, or if there is a God or is not a God. I like to judge people based on who they are as people, individually. Are they a good person? Do they treat other people good? You know, the really important stuff that we should care about when having interactions with other human beings and dogs. But here's the deal. This seems to have really rattled him. Like, the Christians are coming for the gays. But that's not true. If the Christians were going to come for the gays, we'd have totally done that a long time ago. One, we'd have never let things gotten to as far as they are, or as far as they have. I don't know if you know this or not, but gay marriage is legal in this country. Now, did the Christians fight against that? Yes. But not for the reasons you probably think. And I'm not talking to just some guy. I'm talking everybody in general now. We fought against it because words mean things. Marriage means something. It is a relationship between a man and a woman, or men and women. Okay? Now, there's something called polygamous marriage, which is a marriage between multiple men or multiple women. That's still marriage because it fits into that block of women and men. Homosexual marriage is not marriage because there is only one sexual group in that group. It's either 2 men or 2 women, or whatever they want to talk about is this guy's a man who's a woman, but now he's dating a woman who's a man, and I get confused because that's just where we are. People didn't care that people wanted to have legal rights. I didn't care, me personally. You want to join together and get all of the legal benefits that married people have? Fine, cool. Call it whatever you want. Civil union, forever partners, eternal chums, whatever. I don't care. I don't care what you call it. But it's not marriage. And that's what we had a problem with. It's not marriage. You're trying to pretend that something is something it isn't. And that's where things always go wrong in society. When we start pretending that things that aren't are. And that reality is what we make it. But reality is whatever we say it is. It can be fairy tales and pixie dust and unicorns if we say it is. You see, that's called a mental disorder. It's a denial of reality. Now, I don't mean to come off as smug. I mean to come off as frustrated and irritable about all of this as it sounds like I am. And I ask you to bear with me because I am going somewhere with this. Because if someone who is as thought-provoking and intelligent as just some guy can be waggled off course by misinformation and lies about a bill in a state legislature, that worries me. Because for the most part, just some guy is against all of this woke nonsense, hates all of the gender swapping, wants to keep canon and comic books and everything the way they always were, and to not have people come in and bastardize other people's work for political or social reasons. He's reasonable and rational, and he's very good at explaining why. That's why these latest videos and these tweets of late have made no sense to me, because it kind of has expressed to me that he's employing cognitive dissonance, which does not seem characteristic of him. Now, if you don't understand what cognitive dissonance is, it's a psychological term meaning that you take 2 things that are not comparable, but you need them to be comparable, and so you alter one of them until it fits the definition of the other. These are 2 different things. And you make yourself believe that those 2 completely separate things are in fact the same thing when they are not. For example, his point is that Christians have been indoctrinating children forever, and it's just as bad as the indoctrination that's happening by the wokeosphere and the LGBTQ plus IALFMMOP alphabet people. That there's no difference between that, except that the LGBT community has been really oppressed, is where Christians have never been oppressed, which is wrong and a total lie or misinformation on his part. That these 2 things are that they're the same. That both of them are bad. Well, I just want to delve into that for a second. If you can go into the Bible and find me a single teaching that was uttered by Jesus Christ that would lead people to violence, hatred, anger, and destruction of other human beings, I'll give you $1,000. But you can't do it. You cannot go find a teaching told and taught by Jesus Christ. Now, Jesus Christ meaning his words, not implications, don't try and twist the scriptures into a knot to suit your point, because we all know that can be done. The devil can quote scripture to when it suits his purpose. Okay? I'm talking about the literal teachings of Jesus Christ. And you tell me where in those teachings saying any of those things would be harmful to kids, would mess them up and lead them into dark paths or dark roads where the subjects are above and beyond their comprehension. Because I go to church every week, or whenever I can, whenever I'm home. I was taught growing up, and you know what I was taught? Love one another. Be kind. Be patient. Be humble. Be submissive. Be fair. Be honest. Be honorable. Be decent. None of the things I was ever taught in church would lead to bad things. None of them. Now, are Christians innocent of all wrongdoing? Absolutely not. Christians have done some truly terrible things in the name of Jesus Christ. And those are people I would like to call not Christians. That they're sinos. Christians in name only. Kind of like rhinos, Republicans in name only, but sinos. People who do that kind of stuff are not following the teachings of Jesus Christ. They're using the church and or Jesus Christ, whichever variation of Christian church you want to use, for their own wicked ends. They're using that group structure to push an agenda that Christ himself would never have approved of. Either as a church, as an individual, or a small group. Okay? But you cannot tell me teaching children the teachings of Jesus Christ are in any way comparable to teaching children that they are gay from birth, or that they don't have a gender from birth, that they're racist from birth, or any of the other crazy crap that these wackadoodle teachers that have infiltrated our school systems are trying to teach our children. Now, that's the important part. Our children. Not their children. These are not their children. These are our children, or other people's children. For the most part, these crazy psychos don't have kids. For whatever psychotic reason, and maybe they just don't want kids, and that's fine. That's fine. You don't want kids? Cool. Well, don't teach my kids things I don't want you to teach. Mainly because I'm paying for your salary and my taxes and everything else. So I should have a say. And the parents should have a say. Now, does that mean as the kids get older, they shouldn't be able to go to a teacher if something bad is going on at home and tell their teacher, my parents are abusing me, I need your help? Absolutely not. But not from third grade under. I mean, if a kid comes up to you and initiates that conversation, even from kindergarten on, to a teacher and says, my daddy's touching me in a way that he shouldn't, then absolutely that teacher should jump in and help, should get a hold of the police and social services and help that child out. That is very different than going to that child and trying to indoctrinate them to beliefs that are completely contrary to what the parents possibly want. So to compare Christian teachings with the woke teachings and the psychotic things that these wacko teachers are trying to push on little impressionable children, night and day. Cognitive dissonance. Not the same at all. Now, if you have a Christian teacher, someone calling themselves a Christian, who's going to kids and teaching them to hate somebody because they're not Christian, same rule applies. Keep your mouth shut. Me personally, I would have preferred to see them put forth a bill that says, you, as teachers, are not allowed to teach anything outside your assigned subject matter. Nothing. Unless the child comes to you, and if it's a sensitive topic, you talk to the parents first before you continue on with that discussion with your child, with that child. The only time when the parents should not be included is if it is implied that the children are being abused. Then absolutely, you go to the authorities and let the authorities take it from there and go deal with what's going on in that home and get those children saved and protected. You see, but this all seems like common sense to me. But to try and claim that Christians are as bad as every other and any other group that's ever been out there is ridiculous. Like saying the Christians are just as bad as the radical Muslims. Yeah, no. It's like saying that the Buddhists are as bad as some other religion. Buddhism, by its very nature, is all about peace. And if you're not, not being a part of that, or if you're not following those teachings, you're not really a Buddhist. You're a Buddhist in name only. Honest, open dialogue. That's what's important. Don't paint any group with such a broad brush that you tarnish individuals who don't deserve it. I have met several gay people. I wouldn't say I've met a lot of gay people. I haven't. But I've met many. And the ones that I have met are good, honest, decent, hardworking people. And they didn't push any agenda on me. And most of them, I would say, would not agree with what's being done in their name by these psychos on the edge. And that is one of the other points I wanted to make. The extremists amongst us always seem to be trying to pull us and push us in crazy directions to make us as nuts as they are. They won't allow us to just be normal, be who we are, live our lives, be in peace. No, they don't want that. They want you to be as obsessed with them as they are with us. They want you to be as obsessed with their little subject, be it whatever it is, religion, environmentalism, communism, socialism, government, whatever the subject is. There's always some extreme group within that group that's trying to drive the entire group crazy. Now, you've probably heard over the years of people talk about the pendulum. You know, that the right and left are always swinging this pendulum back and forth where the power lies. Here's a crazy thought. Why don't all of us in the middle, who are just sick and tired of all these lunatics and psychos on the outside, why don't we grab the pendulum and turn to those people and go, no, bad extremist, no more pendulum for you. And just leave them out on the edges where they don't have any sway, they don't have any power, they can't hurt anybody but themselves, and just let them be. Watch them, because they're nuts, but just let them be. Don't let them get into positions of authority. Don't let them get into positions of power. Don't let them influence people who are in positions of authority and power. And I say this for every group, because I can't stand psycho-zealot Christians any more than just some guy can. But I don't try and pretend that all Christians are the same, because they're not. I have met Christians from every group, Catholics, Protestants, Church of England, Pentecostal, born again, doesn't matter. I've met about every Christian type of sect you can think of. And I've found good ones, and I've found bad ones. I found the people who sincerely and honestly try and live their religion and live the teachings of Jesus Christ. And I found those who speak the words and are crooked, worthless, evil human beings behind the scenes. But you can say that about every single group. Why don't we stop paying attention to them other than to go and give them the epic eye roll they so richly deserve, while we pay attention to the common sense, normal, average, decent person in that group that might have some ideas that we might want to listen to. Whether you want to listen to people in the LGBTQ community, fine. I want them to be able to live their lives and be as free as I am. Which means I don't want them to be able to walk into a bakery store and tell a baker that they have to bake them a gay wedding cake. What's a gay wedding cake? It's just like regular cake, but it's like, alright, sorry, bad joke. But no, a cake for a gay wedding. Let me put it that way. If that baker doesn't want to do it, he shouldn't be forced to do it. He hasn't violated their rights. He hasn't taken away their freedom. He just said, I don't want to do it. And every business should have the right to say that. It's not against civil liberties to say, I don't want to be part of that. But you know what? Fred, down at the end here, he does that for people all the time. No, that's not good enough. You have to bake me a cake because I have to make you say that I'm normal and that I'm just as valid as everybody else. If you need your validation from some stranger that you don't know, like, or respect, you have issues that a wedding cake from that store isn't gonna fix. Stop letting the wackos run the store. That's it. This guy in that bakery case, he would have sold them anything else in that store. The one thing he said he wouldn't do was bake a wedding cake. He would have sold them anything else in that store. He would also said he would have sold them the cake that they could have taken somewhere else to be decorated for their gay wedding cake somewhere else. He did not deny them service. He denied them one type of cake. But his religious freedom was not as important as those gay people's freedom. And there's the problem. Just some guy, if you want this craziness to stop, you need to go after the extremists who are pushing this nonsense to the point where there are huge backlashes from the people who are constantly being shoved and pushed up against the wall. And I hate to tell you, Christians are persecuted. Case in point, Chris Pratt. Chris Pratt is one of the few people in Hollywood who admit that he is a Christian and that admits he believes in God. He does not proselyte. He does not tell you you have to be a Christian to come to his movies. He doesn't hate anybody or talk about hating them. Now, it's been said that the church where he goes to church is somewhat anti-gay. That doesn't mean he is. And just because you don't agree with homosexuality as a lifestyle doesn't mean you hate gay people. There's a difference. And if you don't understand the difference, then nuance is wasted on you and you're going to have a really hard life. But Chris Pratt has been savaged in the last few days because the trailer for Thor: Love and Thunder came out, and there's a scene where it's briefly hinted that Thor has a homoerotic feelings towards Star-Lord. Now, that's not what I got from the trailer. To me, it just was more goofiness, more silliness that's been pushed onto the character of Thor to minimize him as a character as a whole. But everybody started tweeting that this must have made Chris Pratt so upset. He must have been so just destroyed and devastated that he was subjected into this gay moment in a movie. All of this assumed about Chris Pratt. Chris Pratt never said a word. Chris Pratt didn't utter a single word, didn't make a Twitter announcement, didn't say anything about anything. But because people know he's a Christian, they are assaulting him over the fact that he was in a gay scene and, oh, he must have hated that. They don't know that because he's never said it. He's never said he hates gay people or hates homosexuality. Ever. He's never said it. And you want to tell me that Christians don't get persecuted in the United States of America? Yeah. Maybe not to the as great a degree as they could be, but it's weird. I would think that's a good thing. I don't think anybody should be persecuted. Anybody. Not gays, not lesbians, not transgenders, not anybody. Not Christians, not Muslims, not anybody. But while we're on the subject of Muslims, because this video that just some guy did, his big hang-up was the fact that Marvel had done a comic book in which it was suggested that Jesus Christ, in one short 2-sentence phrase, was a mutant, and that he was called the Nazarene. That he wasn't the Son of God, that he wasn't a righteous deity, and that the Christians went crazy over this. Which is weird, because I hadn't heard of this at all until I watched his video. And even as I watched his video, I was like, and? You think that's the worst thing as a Christian I've ever had to listen to about the person I hold as my Lord and Savior, who died for all mankind and will save us from our sins, and who loves everybody regardless of their sin? I am not that thin-skinned. Now, are there Christians out there that are? Sure. Is that inappropriate? Absolutely. Yes. Now, he compared doing that to Jesus Christ in comparison to Norse mythology and Greek mythology and all of these other mythologies that literally no one believes in anymore. Like, no one has held the Greek gods in esteem for I don't know how long. We study them. I love Greek mythology. I was always fascinated by Greek mythology. I love studying other cultures and histories and religions and where they came from, but I mean, it's not the same. Those are like dead religions for the most part. Nobody really worships the Greek gods anymore. Nobody worships the Norse gods, as far as I know. At least not that I hear about on a regular basis. And if they do, I've never seen anything that would suggest that they mistreat the Norse gods. Most of the time, they treat them like they're great. They're heroes. They're wonderful characters. They don't get called failed mutants. But even if they did, who cares? But I never saw any outrage over this. Now, maybe I was just not looking in the right places to find the 7 Christians who were upset about this. But I don't, you know. But here's the thing. It's easy to attack Christians because you know what? We do turn the other cheek for the most part. Now, we might fight back a little bit, We might tell you to go stick it where the sun doesn't shine. I know, not very Christian of us. But you can only get punched in the face so many times before you're like, hey, okay, I got it. You don't like me. Ease off. Before you're like, I'm gonna stop you there. 10 times is enough. You're not gonna punch me anymore. I'm not gonna hurt you back. I'm not gonna let you punch me either. So, call me a bad Christian. If that makes me a bad Christian, then I'm not gonna just sit there and let you beat me up perpetually. I don't think anybody should have to do that or go through that. But I mean, for the most part, Christians, yeah, I mean, during this video, he calls us all complainers and whiners and that we want to play the victim. I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but Christians have been fed to lions. Christians have been burned. Christians have had horrible, horrible things done to them over the history of the Christian faith. Now, does that justify what the Christians did in return when they became a force? Nope, not at all. They didn't live up to their religion, and like I said, I'm not going to make excuses for it. Now, do I want Catholic priests who diddle boys behind the pews teaching kids? No, I don't. No, I don't. But then I disagree with that practice of the Catholic Church. I think celibacy is a terrible thing, and it was never, ever, 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 ever suggested that that's how we should behave by the Savior. Never. Never once. In any scripture that I've ever heard of, did they say, hey, and by the way, don't ever get married and have sex. I'm pretty sure Jesus didn't agree with that. That's an unnatural state to put human beings in. And as a religion, that's not okay. Not at all. And it has led to some very dark and horrible things. Like I said, anybody in any faith who does terrible stuff should not be protected. They should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Their religion should not protect them. Whether it's beheading people or taking advantage of little choir boys behind the pews. Neither one of those things should be okay. Extremism is not okay in any form, anywhere, in any group. I would think that would be quite obvious and self-evident, but common sense isn't quite so common these days. But I truly worry about just some guy when he can be so intelligent in so many other areas and then show such a complete lack of understanding in other areas towards other subjects. Now, I don't know if something happened to him when he was younger or something happened recently that some Christian somewhere was bad to him. He almost seemed to imply that members of my faith were bad. He kind of alluded to the first prophet of my faith, but then completely didn't in the following statements. He seems to be have a problem with all organized religion. And hey, everybody is entitled to their opinion. Everybody is entitled to believe what they want. But you really shouldn't just slap an entire group with a moniker of you're all bad. Except for Satanists. And I'm pretty sure they'd enjoy that label. Just saying. But I mean, seriously, I don't understand what's happened to him. I don't understand where this loathing and hatred for just Christians seems to have come from. Because, and here's my final point. It's easy to attack Christians because for the most part, we'll let you. Try going into any other country that isn't Christian and try and push your gay ideologies and your gay lifestyles on those countries. I dare you to go to Saudi Arabia and try that there and see just how long you survive. It'll be like 10 minutes before somebody grabs you, takes you up to the top of a roof, and throws you off. The funny thing is, those same people will do the same thing to Christians. Yeah, because they're nuts. Now, I'm not tarring all Muslims with the same brush. If you didn't understand who I was talking about, you do now. But it's not just Muslim countries that'll do stuff like that. There are countries all over the world where homosexuality is treated very badly. And America looks like a paradise in comparison. You know why? Because it's a Christian country. And for the most part, we try and let people live their lives. The only time we get up in arms is when you try and push alternate, decadent, or what we see as evil lifestyles on all of the rest of us. When you try and force us to admit that what you're doing is fine, is normal. And we're not allowed to have an opinion that differs from that. A lot of what you're seeing, this craziness, supposedly from the right or from Christians, is pushback. Because we're tired of getting punched in the face. So we're trying to do things to protect ourselves so that you don't become the oppressors. The LGBT people don't become the oppressors, because you know what? It's never okay to go from being the oppressed to becoming the oppressors. That is not okay, and it never, ever will be. Doesn't matter what issue. If you were slaves who were freed, who then turn and enslave others, I don't think you understand the lesson you should have learned with that. I'm just saying. If it's bad, it's bad. And doing it to somebody else because it was done to you doesn't make it any less bad. In fact, it's worse because you should know better. Common sense. Just saying. But let's just assume for a minute that Marvel did a comic book where Muhammad, the Prophet Muhammad, and the Quran, and all of the symbolism and ideologies of the Muslim faith were denigrated. He was called a failed magician, which the Muslims aren't big on magicians if you don't know. He was a failed magician and circus clown. And the Quran was used to wipe people's bums or something horrible, awful like that. How long do you think that the guy who wrote that, drew that, colored that, lettered that, and put that comic book out, how long do you think those people would live? just asking a question here. Because you know what? You know where that comic is? Nowhere. Nowhere and never. Because it's easy to punch the Christians because they won't kill you for it. Now, you might get a few crazies who might try, but they're the exception, not the rule. Ask I believe it was a French cartoonist who drew a little one-cell comic of the Prophet Muhammad with a turban, with a bomb and a fuse in it that was lit. You know what happened to him? Neither do I. Because he disappeared off the face of the earth. Now, he may still be out there somewhere drawing cartoons in Antarctica where he can't be killed for what he did. But you think the response from the Christians over this X-Men thing was bad? Yeah. Those people are cowards. Because they'll do it to people, they'll go after people that won't punch back or that won't attack them for it. But they'd never do it to another particular faith that would behead them for the same thing. You wanna shock me? You wanna make me think you're brave, that you're not a coward? Yeah, just go try and make that comic. Because you people who punch at Christians, Buddhists, and other people's faiths because you don't believe it or you don't want to be part of it, you're cowards. Because those people, most oftentimes, won't do a single thing to you other than complain and tell you what you did was disgusting and bad, which, by the way, it is. You don't attack something that someone holds sacred. And the last time I checked, who you slept with wasn't really sacred ground. except to the person to whom you are sleeping with, the vice versa thing there. You know, that's important. But to compare attacking Christianity with saying some jokes, but I mean, I laugh at Christian jokes. You know, Sam Kinison was a preacher at one time, then became one of the dirtiest comedians I have ever heard. And he did jokes about Christianity all the time that were hilarious. I laughed my butt off when he did jokes about Christian bugaboos and some of the strange things that we buy into sometimes. It was hilarious. So don't tell me Christians are thin-skinned and that we can't take a joke. But after a while, the joke isn't funny when it's meant as an attack and an assault. It's not a joke. It's not meant to be funny. It's meant to incense and attack you, to denigrate you, to denigrate your faith, what you believe, something you hold sacred. You don't tread on other people's sacred ground. And gender and sex and who you sleep with isn't sacred ground. They're different. And if you don't understand that, once again, nuance is lost on you, and I'm sorry. Now, when I say, if I went and made fun of the person that you slept with personally in front of you to hurt your feelings, yeah, that's sacred. You shouldn't do that. You shouldn't attack somebody like that. You shouldn't attack their loved ones. That's bad. But as a group, as a whole, yeah, everybody's open to being made fun of. Everybody. But you should know that there's a line there. There's good taste. There's knowing when to stop. But unfortunately, there are people out there that never know when to stop. Like I said, common sense is lost. Just some guy, I want you to know, as a Christian, I love you. And I'm not going to unsubscribe from you just because you say stuff I don't agree with. In fact, it makes me question everything. I like questioning everything. Something most people wouldn't believe true of Christians, but we do. I Christian everything, because if your faith, if your beliefs, if your ideologies cannot stand up to any scrutiny, then they were never worth having in the first place. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for being here. Sorry it was so long. Hope you enjoy it. But it's serious stuff. And it's about time we stop letting the extremists pull us around by the nose. We need to make them lose. Take care. And we'll talk to you next time. Bye now.